Hello everyone. Merry Christmas, and thanks for joining me here today to explain a bit more about future projects that I'm going to be working on. Some of them actually almost practically finished. So, yep, my name, as you can see from the title here, my name is Matthew McKenzie, carer campaigner, carer activist, facilitate several carer groups around half of London. But I'm also an author. And what I want to do now is just explain a few things regarding some books that I'm working on. I'm going to start now doing audiobooks, although part of, I suppose, this video, there will be one paperback that I'm working on. It's in draft at the moment. I'll talk about that in a bit. But yeah, during summer 2022, I actually did publish my poetry, my first attempt at what I felt would be focusing on the experiences of providing mental health care, but in poetry form. I suppose a good reason, one of the reasons anyway of doing poetry is that you don't have to really read a whole book to just sort of reach out to those who perhaps understand in a sense of what's it like to provide care for someone with mental ill health, and also to those who've never experienced it. They think, oh, I see, this is, it's quite an interesting poem, I see what he's trying to get at here. But I want to re-release the written form of that book into an audiobook. So yeah, I'm doing an audiobook project on my poetry, but with the added benefit of contributions from other carers, other activists, other poets who want to produce, or have produced poetry on the carers' experiences. So I'm hoping again early 2023, January, February, by that time, that'll be coming out. This is not an audiobook, I didn't mention earlier. This one will be in paperback form, but it was due time to come out. I've been writing books close to 2 years now, but I've been running, I suppose, yes, carer groups, carer forums, carer peer groups. Two of them focus on ethnic carers, those coming from ethnic minority background. Obviously, they're providing care and support to someone going through mental illness. But yes, I've been meaning to write a book like this for some time, looking at one could say how does mental illness impact on the family, on the friends, not from the patient side of things. There is an impact. Let's look at the book closely. As mentioned here, is race, caring, and mental health. So, as usual, I do say to whether you're from an ethnic minority or not, I do say it's important to tell your story and why. But with this book, I feel it's even more important due to some of the tragic consequences that can happen to ethnic minority, and it's not just within the mental health system. As you can see, the second chapter is going to be looking at discrimination and racism and links to mental health. Third chapter is on the health inequalities and the structures that I'm talking about, not just the mental health system. Deadly Roundabout, again, I did mention the word tragedy, and it is. The repeat situations of those going in and out of the mental health system, and why is it occurring. And obviously I don't have the answers, just share my ideas, what I've seen, what I've heard, what I know, what I'm learning about. I'll be really interested on people's views. The book's in draft form at the moment, and I will probably change a couple of pages, hardly anything. Hoping to release this one more likely in January 2023, to be honest. It's practically done. There are many more chapters. The book's going to be hard-hitting. I wouldn't say so controversial. Quite a few of the ideas probably have been heard before, to be honest. Nothing really new, but I felt I've got to throw my own thoughts down. But the focus is on families and unpaid carers. So that's the second sort of book project that I'm doing for at least the earlier part of 2023. While that book is doing the rounds in its draft format, I've decided to do another audiobook, similar to the project of the poetry audiobook. But this time I want to work towards fiction. Now, I've been writing 2 years now. Most of the books that I've been doing they're not fiction at all. I mean, I suppose you could argue in some sense that poetry is looking at certain topics that may or may not happen, but they're all experiences in some sense of what I feel is important in the unpaid carers world. But this audiobook, which I've been sort of asked to do in some sense, because the carers network that I have, they say they like listening to things, and fiction and stories, something they can sort of easily relate to. So why not? I don't mind writing these things. I don't even care whether so not. I was selling it really cheap, but I want to be known to say, look, I'm sharing my ideas of what I feel tends to happen to unpaid carers. But let's have a closer look. There'll be 20 short stories. I'll just explain probably 10. The idea is, let's say the first story is, what is it like to actually provide unpaid care? What's the situations, a carer finds themselves in? Second story is, unfortunately, we do have unpaid carers who fall into a situation where they have to dig themselves out of a hole. Talking about resource issues, education, what is a carer? People are not sure, identifications, things like that. First story, if a big family you'd think would perhaps help provide support for someone who's unwell. That's not always the case. That story will look into that. Fourth story, we do expect to care at some point in our lives, maybe an older parent. But I suppose what goes through the mind of those suddenly falling into that role is the first thing they think to themselves after a while is they never thought it would happen to me, never thought it'd be me. I won't go too much, I don't want to spoil anything. Fifth story, as I said, there'll be some dark, hard-hitting stories in here. Unfortunately, carers do go for a lot of emotions, and one of them is anger. I've been through that myself. I won't go into the reasons why. I want the story to explain it. And if you've read some of my books before, I'm sure you probably understand what I'm getting at. The next, I suppose, 5 story, and I do have 20 of them, but I'm just sort of giving you a little taste, I suppose, of what they're going to be at. So that's just my phone. But peer support, I think, is really important when it comes to carers. There's no reason why it should just only be mental health survivors. There should be an important aspect for carers to relate to each other, to learn from other people's lived experience. Story of hope. Not all stories in here is going to be dark and depressing. It gives a reason why people are in the role of providing care, even through the most difficult circumstances. Short story number 8 is taking a page from the book that I'm just almost about to release. I've practically written it. Discriminated. Again, I want to keep educating, sharing what I've learned. I think most will understand what I'm getting at. There will be a few, unfortunately, I think need a bit more education, really, to be honest. But I'm only sharing for what I've learned. I'm not really going to too much on the other two. Perhaps later on in the future, I might release the full short story out off my website. But anyway, I'd like to say thanks for dropping by, watching my video. I do hope you have a nice restful holiday period, and I'll see you again soon. So take care, everyone.